Welcome, everybody. Today, I'm so lucky to have my friend Meredith Sims, a financial advisor and a chartered financial consultant who specializes in holistic financial planning. And today, we're going to talk about what you're not doing with your money and what you are missing out on, and all of your worries and doubts and fears about holding on to your money. Meredith is going to give you support around how you can transform that with your money. So Meredith, thank you so much for coming on and helping us to live fully expressed with our money. Like, I'm really excited about talking about the freedom money can give us.
Yeah. I'm excited about that too. That's one of the things that is really key and core to what I want to do when it comes to money and my clients, is to ensure that they live the deepest, most fulfilled lives supported by their money, and that it's not their blocks with money don't get in the way of that. So thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And blocks with money. I have gone through, some personal development work around blockages with money, old patterning. How does that interfere with people's ability to make money through investing?
There are a couple of ways it gets in the way. I mean, the biggest is that people just don't take action. They just remain completely stuck and never really look at their money, or even if they think about it, they don't take any action around it. And that can go on for literally years. And then suddenly you're speaking with someone in their 50s and they want to know if they can retire and if they've got the right amount of money in place, and they've never looked at it. So they've never actually, there could have been things they could have done years ago to help them make progress. But it's so common that people don't engage with their money or really reach out to someone to get help. And I would say less so with the younger generation, but certainly, 40s, 50s, 60s. I see it more with people in that.
Like the Generation Xers, or the baby boomers. And so why are we hiding from looking at our money? Like, why don't we want to look? Do you know, have you figured anything out about us?
I think that sometimes that there can be some past experiences, it could have been growing up and the environment someone is in with their money, or what happened in their family that is undistinguished. And so it's not even a conscious thing that they're not engaging with their money. It might be for some, but they don't really know why it's not happening. And then I think there's this misconception that the only way you can do any kind of work around money in terms of investing is if you have a lot of money. So I think there's this barrier to reaching out to an advisor and getting help.
So let's say I only think I have $100,000 in the bank or $1 million in the bank, whatever. What's the amount of not enough money, but is like, I don't have enough money. That advice, they're not going to want me as a client. Is that what they're thinking sometimes?
Yeah, I think that sometimes is a concern. That's a concern. There's a lot of industry jargon, and I've got to say, I try really hard not to use it, but I'm still guilty. You're in that fishbowl and that's how you speak. But there's fear of being kind of patronized, particularly for women. I think there's shame, there's embarrassment about things that haven't been done sometimes. And at the end of the day, there are a lot of people out there just doing financial planning. It doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank. If you're willing to pay a fee to get help and to pay for a service, that's available. But I think there are these misconceptions out there that stop people from taking that next step.
Right. And so what is holistic financial planning then, from your perspective?
Well, I feel like money is often kept in this separate little kind of container, unrelated to how one wants to live one's life. And what I mean by that is that, someone might be on autopilot kind of by rote, saving money into their 401k because they're in a company plan and there's a default investment set up. And so that happens. They might have been taught at some point, pay off your credit cards every month or something like that, but they've never really looked at what life am I creating. Now, obviously this is not true for everyone, but what life am I creating? How do I want my life to look? How do I need my money structured to support that life? So it's sort of that disconnect between those two things that I think can get in the way. And so when I say holistic, and let's face it, holistic is an overused phrase, but it's just one way of saying that we're going to look at more than just the dollars on the spreadsheet, because your life is not just dollars on the spreadsheet.
Right. So, like, for example, maybe you have a story around, somebody like me who's, wants to do lots of things in her life, and she's has a career, but she also wants to have some rental properties. She also wants to, she wants to learn how to make passive income, and she wants to also be making positive cash flow. But then, so you look at the whole picture. You want to look at how does that person live? Do you have a story about yourself or a story of one of your clients?
Well, the story about myself is that I had to get to a very granular level of detail at one point in my life because money was that tight. I had to get very clear about what was coming in and going out. And the funny thing is that there's this detachment that comes from that. Because when you really have to look at where your money is going and get clear about what you value and what brings joy and enrichment and fulfillment to your life, you get very clear about what's a good use of your money and what's not a good use of your money. And I think people avoid, I'm probably getting off topic here a little bit to your question. I think people avoid looking at that granular level of detail because they're afraid of what they'll find out and they don't want to be restricted or deprived. But there's also a freedom in it, because when you're absolutely clear where your money is going and whether it's supporting everything that you say that you want to create, then you can take informed action towards what you want to do in your life. And I might have missed part of your question there, but
well, I think it's just like you want to work with the whole person. Like you want to know everything about them. Some of you already know, besides a shamanic practitioner, I am a CPA. So I get what Meredith is talking about. And so I can talk your language a bit, but I can also understand your clients. Your clients, it's kind of like they want to tell you their life story. They do want to tell your life story. And how I remember, is like they just want to give you this. Some of the clients just want to give you the stuff and you solve the problems. But you prefer to get to know the client inside out and work with them to solve the problems, like so that they change, so that they don't keep doing the bad habits that keep them more stuck.
Right. Yeah. And it might not be bad habits. It might be just never taken a look at what's going on. I mean, I spoke with someone not so long ago and, they felt completely stuck, like completely trapped in their job. And the only way to unstick from that is to get real about, well, if you want a different life, what's it look like and what's it going to cost? And maybe what you're spending now to sustain your current life isn't really what you need to be spending because your current life is not making you terribly happy. So when you start to get clear about all those different elements, then it kind of comes together. And I mean, in an ideal world, then people can make a change and be happier, as well as, obviously growing and investing their money.
And I think some of us, when I was working in the industry, I met up with lots of seniors who were afraid to make money on their money. And so so why are we afraid to make money on our money?
Well, I know you have a tax background, so that might be why. And so I can understand that because people do need to look at, their income tax. Although as we've discussed, I mean, If you want it, I mean, if you want to make money, then you are going to pay some form of taxes on it. And then, of course, you want to be mindful of if you're just going to immediately bump into another bracket by taking a distribution and doing those kinds of things. But what I see a lot in my area is less that fear of taxation, based on the demographic I'm working with, and more just a complete inaction, where the only reason they're not growing their money is that it's still in a mainstream bank account earning nothing, or it might be in a high yield account. But if it's a substantial amount of money that's just been sitting there for several years, that is not earmarked for an immediate or medium term use, I mean, they're losing money. And, frankly, they're not really keeping track with inflation even. So it's that, again, it's that fear of doing the wrong thing. I mean, no one wants to lose money in the market. And so unless they're getting advice about how to, use that money in a way that supports current, medium-term, future goals, then they do nothing. And over time, they're losing money in effect.
And these people, can you describe this person so that this person kind of knows, that you're there to help them? Like, they're afraid, they work full time, like they have money in the bank, but they how do they take the step to start contacting you is what I like. How do we know that it's time to ask you for help? Like, is there something that happens?
Well, I would say that asking for help, if you've never had any kind of financial planning done, then I would say that as soon as you're able, because if someone's in a younger age bracket, then they will set themselves up in a better way. I mean, if they're at the sort of early stages. But the other is some kind of change. If someone's thinking about retirement, but they really have no idea if they can actually do it. So if you're thinking of a change and you're unsure and there's anxiety around that change, one way to relieve some of that anxiety is to get some professional help and some advice on, well, this is what it looks like, and yes, you're going to be okay, or no, you need to take a few more different steps, that kind of thing. But I would also say just if there's a general unease and unhappiness, which it could be that, and obviously this is very much in your realm, helping people, reach their full potential. But it could be that there's some unease there because they've never distinguished what the next step is. And so what I like to do, and it's not with every client, if someone is unclear about what they want, versus just anxious about their next step and wanting to know they're going to be okay financially, what I do like to do is use some journaling prompts and some sort of deeper questions so they can get some clarity before we then go into the financial information. Yeah.
And that it goes deeper, like working with somebody's money and talking to them on the financial level, I think is a deep job. Like, I got to know people quite well in that realm, and they're confident, and whatever they feel like they've done wrong, they want to feel like free to tell you, like, and you make it safe for them to do that. I'm right.
Yeah.
And
it's definitely a judgment-free zone. I mean, I'm only interested in what they want to create in their life.
Yeah. Yeah. And turn around situations for them. And you have tools, like you must have a lot of resources and tools in your tool bucket to help with people making money. Is that right?
Well, I mean, obviously, I've been an advisor for a long time, and there are a lot of investment solutions and different ideas, and I do tend to specialize in socially responsible investing, so if people have a specific concern or interest in areas that align with their values, that's my specialty.
And that's,
And
let's talk about that a bit more. Like, what is socially responsible investing?
well, it's a broad term and it gets called
Yeah.
different things. Sustainable investing. I like to say values directed investing because fundamentally that's what it boils down to. People have different interests. Some people are more interested in human rights. Others are more interested in the environment. Some people are interested in all of it. And because we live in a global capitalist world, you can't have a perfect solution for all areas. You know, although sometimes people will take take sort of maybe a reduced return in order to meet all of their values. So it's really, looking at the impact that companies are making. It's looking at how they treat their workers. It's, the environment, their impact on the environment. And it could be sort of at the industry level, or it could be at the individual company level, depending on the type of solution that's in play.
Well, that sounds really amazing, and I'm happy that you're doing that, because I'm just coming off of Earth Day, and when you think about what you think about, people do want to do that. They do want to be more conscious about where they're putting their money, especially if you're working with people who didn't want, like they've been holding on to their money and not making money on their money, and being conscious and about their values and where money is going is an integrity. Like, it's a lot of integrity.
Well, I think, certainly the clients I work with are already making those kind of choices in their everyday life in terms of the charities they support and where they spend their money. Yeah. But it hasn't always been an available thing in terms of how they invest their money, because, if you're in a company 401k, it may not even have any of those options. So really then you just have to do some inquiry into what is in that lineup of available funds and see which are sort of better and which are not. And so that can be challenging to be granular in investing, and I completely understand that. And I also think that ultimately money is power, and particularly for women, having money and feeling confident around their money is an empowering thing, and I believe that empowered women, again an overused term, empowered, are beneficial to our world. So it's a balance. Have it all.
And I think I appreciate it. Like, I appreciate when we decide to make a choice. When somebody decides I'm going to invest in socially responsible investments or values-based, they're telling the market, they're indicating that that's their choice, and then they're a leader in that, and then other people will follow along. Just like organics, or like getting rid of pesticides, we have to start choosing the better thing. And then more people will choose the socially responsible thing, and that's how the world will change.
Yeah, I mean, it's so true. And there's been some pushback against sort of aspects of that recently, but if you look at the dollars invested, I mean, it's been like a J curve in terms of its growth in that realm, and ultimately it's a financial consideration, because if you have a company that is taking care of its employees and the environment, and basically doing the right thing, then that's goodwill. I mean, that's goodwill in the market. It's prudent financial management, if you will, to understand, to the degree they can, what's going on in the supply chain, what's going on environmentally, because those things there can be a pushback if things come to light that are not, sort of considered.
It reminds me of the saying, how you do one thing is how you do everything. like,
Mm-hmm.
and so the people you work with, how they do one thing is how they want to do everything, right? And then that just translates, it kind of ripples out into our choices, and it aligns us with better choices.
Right. Yeah.
So you saw, if there's a way for people to connect with you and talk to you, like, how does somebody get started with you?
It's really easy, actually. They would go to the Contact Us page on my website, which is heartstrongwealthplanning.com, and there's a reason for that name. And then they can send me a note, or they can book a call on that contact page. The call is actually a telephone call. It's just a short, quick chat to see if, we're a fit. But if they want to just take the plunge and do an initial consult, which is complimentary, because I have to understand what they're looking for, and they need to meet me, they can just send me a note, and then I'll send them a calendar link, and they can set up that consult.
Great. I'll be putting that link in the comments as well.
Okay.
Tell us about your name. Tell us about the heart.
Oh, for a long time I was using my regular name, Financial Services. I'm so boring, but anyway, it's very common in my industry. But a coach had me go through a different process because I wasn't happy with the name. And so, I think it's fundamental to what I believe about this realm of money and financial advising, which is that it's about what's in your heart. What do you care about? What do you want to direct your money towards? And I could say your time. You want to build strength, like a strong financial foundation. If you want to feel strong in your connection with your money.
Yeah.
You want to be wealthy, and that is more than just financial wealth. It's living a wealthy life, and people have different levels of wealth to support the life that they specifically want to live. People can live wealthy lives that look very different and very different levels of money. And then it takes some planning to accomplish all of that.
Yeah.
So that's where the planning comes in.
Yes. Tell us the name one more time.
Heart Strong Wealth Planning.
All right. Heart Strong Wealth Planning.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful name. Is there anything else around you really have a heart for working with women too? Like, you really want to help women. And I know empowered is overused, but it's really, I like it to use encourage. I like to use support, lift up, do together, like when women start making changes in their lives, we're the guides. Like we guide the family, we guide the kids, we guide, we're the ones shopping and we're spending the money.
Yeah.
Like we're in, influencing the market just like anyone else, maybe even more. We don't, I don't know, maybe you know that, but why do you really like to help women so much? Like, what about in you? Something about your story. I'm just curious.
I feel like obviously I'm a woman. I have a natural affinity with women. And I guess this is possibly a little bit of a, maybe it's kind of a too narrow focus. I feel like, it's certainly in my industry, there is not a dearth of female advisors, but it's definitely proportionally a much smaller percentage. And I know some fabulous male advisors. I really do know some amazing heart-centered advisors. I guess I gravitate towards those. But I feel like women, they have a different way in which they speak about and conceptualize things. It is more rounded in a way. It is more conversational. And so an engineer is probably not going to want to work with me because it's not my gift to just talk, numbers and only numbers. And I feel like women are open to that kind of broader collaborative conversation, and they need that level of support, because they don't always get it everywhere else.
Yeah.
There's a lot of barriers out there.
Yeah. I think it's so important for you to be helping a lot of women I know for myself and other women I know, there's a lot of us right now that are wanting to be of service and to really do our gifts and what we're meant to do. And that means leaving a corporate job and like total huge transformation. And even there's women who have had the families and now maybe they want to do what they feel they're meant to do. And sometimes, I really like having my own money, being in charge of every decision I make with my own money. I don't want to have to ask anyone's permission about how I spend my money, especially my partner. Like, I want to be able to make all the decisions with my money. And I want to have advice from somebody who also recognizes why I want to be totally empowered with my money, and I feel like that's another woman knows that, like, knows where I'm coming from. I don't have to explain myself,
Right. Yeah.
And you see it from my perspective too, where, because you've been there probably too, like you've been there.
Yeah.
I don't want, and I think that's refreshing. It's refreshing to be able to work with somebody, and more women growing into the financial industry is important, because still in my industry, in the accounting industry, I still didn't feel like I had a voice. I think it was still really way too quiet than what how far I did get in it,
Yeah, I think the financial industry has changed a lot, but it also might be just the bubble that I exist in terms of the people I associate with. But it was a journey for me. I mean, I did not feel comfortable in this industry for a long time, being fully congruent and expressed as what I cared about and what I wanted to accomplish and do in the world. And, really the rebranding as Heartstrong Wealth Planning was when I finally got to a point where I felt congruent. And even then, I remember going to a conference and it was when I had just rebranded, and telling someone the name of my firm, and they're like, "Oh, it sounds like a health company." And I still had this little bit of embarrassment about using a name that was so not the norm, but I think it's becoming more the norm. There's definitely a lot more conversation. I mean, there's always been conversation in the industry that is more about living a fulfilled life and purposeful life and supported by your money, but it's been a small piece of it. And I think there's more and more of it, which is really just a sign of the evolution of the world, I would imagine. But yeah, still, it's when I talk to people even about socially responsible investing, and I feel like there's a lot of people that I know that well, actually, there's not a lot, but there are people out there that have been doing that for a long time. It's just not as accessible. If you go out and Google financial advisors, you're probably going to get a lot of big firms which just don't feel as friendly if you're someone that already has a barrier to reaching out, to getting help.
Yeah.
Even though they might do a fine job,
Well, this is where your holistic comes in. Like, you're coming from a lot of different avenues, and you have more than these letters behind your name. Like, you even have more training behind your name. And, you've been in my shoes or other women's shoes. You can relate to many of us.
I have been on the journey, Jennifer.
Yeah.
I have been on that journey. I mean, I've been on that journey financially. I've been on that journey in terms of finding myself and being actually congruent and speaking and expressing myself in a way that actually reflects who I am in the world and what I want to do and create. It's that journey of life. And also, I would say, I mean, I have worked with quite a few entrepreneurs. It's that journey of, the entrepreneurial journey is a tough one. I mean, it's like a self-growth journey. You can't be on that journey unless, I don't know, you're incredibly gifted or you're independently wealthy. But even then, I don't think you can be on that journey and not kind of grow and go through some hurdles and some tough times. And I mean, I've done a lot of study, but I've also done a lot of personal growth and, sort of energy work. I mean, all of that. So
yeah. And so like I'm your ideal client is what I'm like. She gets you. She it's the spiritual, it's the mental, it's the heart, it's the body, like everything. Money, I know if I was to share about like a money block, it's like coming from the financial industry where it was recession proof, like, people need accountants, you can make money. Then you come and do a whole different career. That career is still like, I mean, I can't turn it off. I know how to help people with money. But then there's this like, oh, I have to market myself. I have to talk about myself. I have to do all of those things. And then that kind of like interferes with your money, your idea of how to make money and all, that kind of stuff. Like,
well, you know why it brings up, and it might not be this for you because you have a background in the money world, but it brings up one's question of value.
Yes,
how we value ourselves.
Yes,
and I think that's a big thing, and that's why we have so many business coaches out there and personal development coaches. And that's why connecting and engaging with one's money is part of that journey of owning our value.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure you help people with this when you're looking at your money. And so like when you're working with somebody like Meredith, you're paying attention. And this is what I teach, is like noticing and paying attention is the magic. It is the medicine. It solves all the problems. You don't have to fix anything. As soon as you start putting attention on your money, you start to grow. And so the money will start to grow, and the problems start to dissolve because you are working with somebody who gets it, who understands the energetics of money too. Like it's a currency. I like to call it a currency. It is a current. It likes to move and grow. And you're this heart-strong wealth planning. Is that what it is? Heart-strong wealth planning. I think it's the bee's bonnet. Like that's a great name.
Oh, thank you.
Heart-strong. I wasn't going to swear or anything there. So Meredith, do you work with clients globally? Like, do you work with people around the world?
I do have some limitations. I do have, from an investing perspective, there can be some limitations. I mean, I have invested for clients in Australia, for example. It depends on where that money is being held from a custody point of view. To be perfectly honest, I don't know if I can do financial planning with clients in other countries. I think they would need to have some kind of US, like a social security. I'm actually not 100% sure about that.
Well,
I know you're in Canada, and I actually. It's so interesting that you asked that, because recently I meant to find out more about, whether I can work with Canadian clients, and I actually don't know the answer to that, so I can't give you an answer. But
but
it would be good to know.
You're serving the U.S. clients.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what state you live in.
No, it doesn't matter what state. No.
Okay. So Meredith can serve you in the U.S. for sure. But you might have some other programs occasionally or things that come up around money, like just money coaching too. Do you do?
Yeah. I have. I did run. Well, I did do a small group program, which I loved actually. It felt like the perfect fit of everything that I do. So I would like to do more of that. I have ideas for retreats and various things, but as you know, it takes time to bring all this to fruition.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm building a retreat space right now.
Oh, that's right. You have a retreat space. Yeah.
Yeah. You might be coming.
I'll get to check it out one day.
In the future. So Meredith, you can connect with Meredith at the link, her connect link that I'll be putting in the comments, but you have a disclaimer you need to make. And I was going to.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And we can just show it. And if you don't mind displaying it,
sure.
Free, just because of the industry that I'm in.
Okay. I'm doing that. Here we go. Okay.
Right.
And we don't need to read it, do you? Do you need to read it?
No. I think that the key factors are obviously that, do your due diligence before you invest. And this presentation wasn't here to give you any kind of investing advice. But yes, I've tried reading it in its totality, and I really just stumble over that many words. So as long as people read that and see that.
There was no advice given on this podcast.
That's right. That's right.
Just a discussion.
A conversation.
Yes. So can I stop sharing, Meredith?
Yes, you can. Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect.
So, yeah. I don't know. I'm good at scanning stuff. I'm sure someone could have scanned that. Yeah.
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I love talking about money because it's such a big part of our life. And I wrote down one word you said, detachment, earlier. And I just, I've practiced a lot around that. It's like being detached from the worry about money. Like, don't let, and be more in alignment with my value, and knowing that what I offer is really valuable. And then
very much so.
And just like what you offer is really valuable. And just reminding all women and men, we all have these talents, these gifts, and everyone has a lot of value. And we just need to focus on that a bit more. And not ignore that this self-value, like this value that is inherent in us and doesn't have anything really to do with money. Like there's this inherent value. This conversation is valuable, and there's no money exchanged here. Like, I mean, it's just like, it's just so valuable. There's so much value in so many things. And if we detach from the worries and the anxieties, it can be a lot easier. It can be a lot easier for us.
Because the worry doesn't solve anything. And the biggest antidote to worry is to get, just what is the next small step you can take to deal with whatever it is that's causing that worry. And I think that's, reach out to Jennifer if you need help with finding your purpose and getting clear about what's next.
Yeah. And I know I work with a lot of US clients, and one of them was talking about their financial worries to me today. And I'm thinking, I think I need to set them up with Meredith, like I need to introduce them to Meredith. And if you're watching this podcast and you know somebody in the US who, is interested in socially responsible investing, holistic financial planning, heart-centered wealth management, like Meredith is your woman. I've known Meredith for, I feel like 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah, I think so.
And personal growth is so important to a professional's life. I like to work with people who are doing personal growth, because that means that they're holistic as well. And they're taking care of everything about themselves. So that means, like, how you do one thing is how you do everything. They're going to take care of their clients like that too.
Right.
So it's really a pleasure to have you on, Meredith, and I help us, love to connect with you more and find a way for us to collaborate too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think it's so interesting, Jennifer, that you have this incredible, deep spiritual gift that you're bringing to the world, but it's grounded in, like CPA. I mean, so, and I think that's fantastic, because I think people sometimes feel like the spiritual piece of things can be a little abstract or hard to conceive. But when you've got someone that is so grounded in factual things, I mean, racehorses and accounting, I mean, I think you bring a lot to your clients because you have that full spectrum yourself.
Yeah. Life experience. There's no certificate for life experience either, but it is really helpful. It is really helpful when you're working with people. And I think that's another asset. I know we're going over time, but oh well. It's a real asset when you come from a financial background, because you get to know people really well. Like, you learn about what they do. You learn about their kids. You learn about everything about them, because you're helping them with their money, and they need money to live their life, and their life is, important to them, and their kids are important to them, and their future is important to them. So, I mean, it's such an important industry, and it is growing. Like, it's the biggest growing industry out there, financial.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
One of the biggest growing industries out there. So, if you're a woman and you're interested in getting into the financial industry, do it.
Yeah,
because we need you.
So too.
We need you in that industry. And you can bring the heart. You can bring more. We can get more heart in that industry. I think it will really make it an amazing place to be of service.
Yeah. There are some great there's some great people in this industry.
Okay.
Men and women, but yeah.
So we need more women. So much, Meredith, for coming. And I am going to put your connection link in the comments. And thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you.